Who's driving your car?
You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
This week, Matt and I covered two things that may or may not be related. The first thing we covered was the death of a journalist named Michael Hastings. At the age of 33, Michael Hastings died in a fatal single-car accident driving a Mercedes C250. For some people, this is a horrific accident that, while improbable, is possible. Now, we can go over the details of the accident in our earlier episode. You can check that out. We also have a great conversation going on in the comments of that episode if you want to catch up on some stuff that didn't make it into our recording. There's another contingent of people who say that Michael Hastings was not the victim of random circumstance, but was instead the victim of an elaborate assassination attempt. And so Matt and I started looking into this idea of hacking cars, and that's where we found some fascinating and frankly frightening things. Let's talk about three things right now. Yes, it is absolutely possible to hack a car. It is so scarily easily possible to hack a car. This is not like one thing that one guy could do one time. Recently, two white hat hackers named Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek have been making the rounds in the media. You might have seen them on Forbes or any number of other online interviews because they have gone public with their DARPA-sponsored experiment to hack cars, to namely hack them by accessing the ECU, or Electronic Control Unit. They only did this on a 2009 Toyota Prius and a 2009 Ford Escape. However, this is something that could happen to pretty much any car with an ECU unit. ECU technology has been around for decades, and with the increasing electronic sophistication of cars, the ECU is in charge of more and more stuff. Super convenient if you don't like parallel parking, your car can just park for you, but super dangerous if there's not any security. Two, they're not the only people who figured this out. You can check online for some earlier papers that I believe we mentioned in our Wednesday episode. And if you check out these papers, you'll find that researchers have proposed some even more scary stuff about hacking cars, at least in theory. One of their arguments is that it is possible to hack a car by accessing the Bluetooth, getting to the ECU units through the Bluetooth device, or even just putting in a physical CD with malicious code on it and having that somehow go from the media center of the vehicle to controlling the brakes. Now, these people have been able to do some pretty crazy stuff with this, like movie thriller, James Bond kind of stuff with this, disabling the brakes, swerving at high speeds, which for the people who believe that Michael Hastings was murdered seems like a strong indicator that that technology is possible. But again, a capability doesn't necessitate a motive as well. Three, there really is stuff they don't want you to know about hacking cars. And in this case, they would be both possibly intelligence services of various world governments, but definitely auto manufacturers. How do we know this? Well, recently, European scientists were due to speak at a conference in Washington about security vulnerabilities in the locking mechanisms and locking software of luxury cars. More than one type: Bentleys, Porsches, Audis, but Volkswagen AG went through the British legal system to prohibit all conversation about the findings that these folks had made. And so in protest, they are no longer going to be presenting at the conference. Now, this is a very sticky situation here because one, there's a lack of transparency. A lack of transparency usually breeds corruption. It usually doesn't, if it was a story, anything that starts with a lack of transparency doesn't end up with a happy ever after. That's like a story rule. But secondly, there's also huge security concerns, because if you have knowledge of how to hack these and it's just out in the open and anybody can find it just cruising on Google, then the implications of that are ominous. I mean, it could be disastrous. Now, of course, we did something different. We covered something while it's still kind of happening. So we want to put this caveat in. There are still numerous pieces of the Michael Hastings tragedy that have yet to come to the light. There's still a lot of variables that we don't know. Now, we're not saying any of these are sinister, it's just that we're still waiting for this story to fully develop. If you find anything or if you hear anything about Michael Hastings, please let us know. Drop a note in the comments, send us an email. We're conspiracy@discovery.com. Oh, and stay tuned for next week when we dig a little bit deeper into the underbelly of the web.